Welcome. I want to be talking to you about the future of coaching, and I'm really glad that you've made it this far in the series, because if you've made it this far, you've learned a ton. You've learned a lot. You started really with some very basic, maybe even just some marginal understanding of what a life coach is. And now we're at the place I'm going to talk to you about the future. I'm going to talk to you about the future of coaching. My name is Dwight Bain, and I've been doing this for about 20 years, and I'm really passionate to help you be your best. But as we think about the future, you know, you can do a lot of things with the future. A couple years ago, I had a chance to run the Disney Half Marathon. And when you finish the race, because your body is so kind of exhausted, they take these and they wrap around you as you go get hydrated again. So when you think about the future, I'm not talking about space age. I'm talking about real time. I'm talking about the things that you will need to be the best life coach possible. So as we get started, I want you to know, I'm going to be giving you a lot of information. Get your legal pad. Because with your legal pad and your pen in hand, as we walk through this, there are going to be some sections you're going to say, got it. Bain, I got it. Fantastic. On the sections that maybe are a little new to you, all I want you to do, because I really need you to understand these foundational principles before we go on to some more advanced levels as a coach, is just hit the rewind button. Go back and make sure that you understand. Make sure that you understand everything that you need. Now, some of the material that we're going to be covering today as we walk through this would probably be illustrated in some ways by this rather large, as you can see, very big Ziploc bag. Now, to those who understand a little bit about the whole coaching process, I'm going to give you a lot. You're going to get a big bag full. However, if this is still kind of new to you, if you're not even sure where you fit in the process, it's okay. It's okay. You know what? They make small Ziploc bags. So whatever capacity you feel like you have, if your capacity is big, teach it all to me, man. I want a flood. I want a tsunami of information so I can go out and literally capture my community for Jesus Christ as a life coach. Great. We're going to give it to you. However, if you say, I'm just getting started at this, my personality is not over the top, no problem. Just reaching a few people for Jesus Christ as a life coach. Either one works. But let's get started. And we start right off the bat with the basic principle. Now I'm going to be walking you through a formula. It's a formula that has 7 different T's. So it'll be pretty easy to remember. And the first T is trends. When you think about trends, let me quote from, this is from Entrepreneur magazine that I read every month. And Entrepreneur magazine, they will rank the top trends in our culture. And the number one trend this year, business coaching, number one. You know, it shocks people, but the average coach will make well in excess of $50,000 a year if they're working full-time as a coach. But the number one trend this year is business coaching. It exceeds everything else. And this is written where there's a lot of economic concerns. What does that mean for you, and what does that mean for me? It means that if I pay attention to the trends, you can't do that by yourself. You need some other people around you who are kind of tracking things. But if you pay attention to the trends, the good news is you'll be able to stay ahead of that trend. Kind of think of it like the whole process of surfing. If you get ahead of a wave too far, you miss the wave. But if you're able to catch the timing just right, man, you're able to zoom forward and have the ride of your life. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to help you with some basic trends. And one of those trends is a very small one. One of those trends involves a tiny little device. This is less than $100. And this trend, by the way, this is just a little tiny camera. Now, my favorite camera to use when we're taping short coaching segments, and we post this on a website called YouTube. Maybe you've heard of it, youtube.com. But you can post like 1 minute, 30-second. You can do little short segments, and this is a trend. Now, there's a difference between a trend and a fad. When we tape for our coaching channel, when we tape these, we use a Canon FS100. You can post it right to YouTube. And then what you've done is you've created an opportunity to be able, with a trend. Now this is a trend, it's not a fad. The difference between a trend and a fad is the difference between an iPod and a hula hoop. You see, an iPod, this is mainstream. When people load up their iPod and they listen, and you see them everywhere, that's a trend. That's something that's part of mainstream America. And if that seems a little much to you right off the bat, I just want you to understand that in the United Kingdom, in South Africa, in Australia, in New Zealand, in parts of the world where coaching has just exploded with growth. We already see that around the world, life coaches are plugged into these trends. As you stay tuned in to AACC, as you stay tuned in to the material, the follow-up material that we're going to send you, we're going to keep you tuned in to the trends that are happening so you can absolutely be your best. Now, one of those trends I want to share with you, this is from the National Forum for Healthcare Strategies. And they found out recently that the majority of people in the United States, 83%, the majority of people get most of their healthcare information, are you ready? From the internet. Most of their healthcare information from the internet, not from their doctor, not from their counselor, not from their psychologist, their psychiatrist, not from a social worker. They get their information from the web, WebMD, MayoClinic.com. And they're going to these places because they're able to find answers. People no longer go to the internet to search. They go to the internet to find. And that's a trend I want you to be plugged into. I'm going to be teaching you more as we go along. So our first T is trend. And as we plug into the idea of these trends, if it seems like a little much, all you need to do is contact us, and somebody from our organization can walk you through. Shoot us a question. Send us an email. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to be the best at what you do. Because when we go from trends, we immediately walk into technology. And I've already started talking about that. The number one technology is, of course, the internet. It's where most people get their information for healthcare, and it's certainly where most people are actually going to find you as a life coach. And don't you want them to find you? I want them to find you. But when I think about technology has actually changed a whole lot. When I first started this process, and I saved one of these, this was mainstream technology. If you don't know what this is a disk so that you could install AOL America Online, a popular email and browser service. You can install this into your computer on a CD, and then you could hook it up to dial-up. And the astounding thing to me, this is only a couple years ago, but that's how fast things are changing with technology. And because things are changing so fast with technology, let me give you just a couple of basics. One of the fastest growing websites on the internet is Facebook, facebook.com. And if you think, man, that's for college students, that's not for me. Nope. The largest and fastest group now that are using Facebook are women over the age of 55. In research that was done by several large coaching organizations, they found that women between 45 and 60 are some of the biggest, the largest demographics, some of the largest individuals, not large in size, I realize that probably sound offensive, but it's the biggest group of people who are now on Facebook looking for answers. Yeah, they meet some people maybe from their past, but they're also looking for answers. So we need you to be on Facebook. We need you to go to Plaxo.com, Plaxo.com. We need you to be on LinkedIn, LinkedIn.com. We need you to pay attention to be on certain social networking sites. That's a way to be able to use technology. But by using the technology, it puts you in front. So when somebody types into their computer, life coaching, you know what? I want to see your name come up first. I want to see your name be the one that they find. Because sometimes when we think about the future of the coaching business, technology is going to drive it. All media is kind of collapsing into the internet. And if you're positioned right, they can find you. They can find you for answers. And they're looking for answers. Life coaching is growing because people want results in their lives. They don't want to stay stuck in the past. Remember, counseling is about dealing with issues from the past. Counseling is about overcoming pain. Coaching is about potential. Coaching is about your future. Coaching is about results. Coaching is the purpose-driven life. Counseling is getting past the pain in your life. All of us at one stage of life or another may need a counselor, but not everybody does. Not everybody's had a horrible or painful or traumatic critical incident that they've had to live through. But I want you to know, everybody needs a coach, because everybody wants to get from where they are to where they want to be. Everybody wants to get from where they are to the dreams, the visions, the hopes, the goals, the plans that God has placed inside of them. And to get to where you want to be, to get to where I believe that God has positioned you, you need a coach to bridge that gap. And my friend, you're that coach. You're that individual. So we started by talking about trends. We then talk about technology and the fact that most people get their information. Let's go to the third point, and the third point's pretty simple. It's telephone. It's a telephone. And this one it's a handheld device. You can do wireless. I can go on the internet. But I'm just about to change cell phones, and here's what's interesting. When I went into my cell phone provider, and this was high-end a couple of years ago. This was like the top that you could get. And I could do different things. I can take short videos to post to YouTube. When I said I'm looking for something else, the sales representative was extremely helpful. He said, "What are you trying to accomplish?" And I said, "Well, I'm really passionate about this whole process. I'm a life coach. I'm an author, and I love to just be able to post information quickly." And we found the right phone. And I said, "What do you want me to do with this phone?" You know what he said? Throw it away. Because technology is changing so fast that this handheld mobile device is actually worthless. It means if you have an old telephone that can't do text messaging, if you have an old cell phone that can't do certain things, you say, Dwight, why is that important? Well, let me tell you why. Because about 40% of coaches, this is their primary tool. Now, of course, you plug in, you have a headphone to make it comfortable, because most of the time when I'm doing a coaching session, I've got my phone, I've got my headphone on, and I'm typing. Because as I'm talking to that life coaching client, I'm listening to their concerns. I'm listening to their challenges. One of my favorite questions, what challenges are you facing? You see, we'll start out a coaching session, and I'll ask them, okay, what's happened since last time? And some coaches will talk to you once a week, some every other week, some once a month. There's some coaches I've got working on specific projects. I may not talk to them for a couple of months, but we'll stay in touch with email, text messaging, and sometimes even I'll send them a short video. And all I have to do is just turn it, camera's right there, hit the button, and even though we talked earlier about this technology, this requires a different step. If I take a short video, and I use these for training purposes, all right, then I've got to plug it into my computer. It takes a step. A little technical if you don't know how to do that, but you know what? This isn't technical. With most of the new smartphones, and that's where everything's going. Everything's going mobile. In the next few years, we're going to see that almost everything that we do, from GPS to any basic application, you can even, on some of the smartphones, you can turn it sideways and it's a level so that you can level your bookshelf. We're going to see that everything's going mobile. And what does that mean for coaching? Well, the exciting thing is when we think about the future of coaching, it means that if you just know some basic applications on a smartphone, you're going to be able to stay in touch with that coaching client. You're going to be able to help them. You're going to be able to reach out to them. That means maybe you're waiting in line somewhere to pick up a kid from school. You know you've got 30 minutes. You know what you're going to be able to do? You're going to be able to maybe send a short video greeting to one of your coaching clients to say, are you on track? Are you doing the things we talked about? You're going to hold people accountable. And accountability is a huge part of the coaching process. Accountability is to be able to ask the tough questions. You see, most of us know what we need to be doing. That's called a New Year's resolution. It's kind of a ridiculous process because people will say, I know I need to lose weight. I know I need to, save more money, watch less television, read more books. We know what we need to be doing. The difference is, do you have a coach? Do you have somebody to come into your life and ask you hard questions? Somebody to come into your life to hold you accountable? Somebody to come into your life and say, are you doing the things that you said you'd do? And in the process that we're going through, part of our job as trainers, the team of coaches that have come together to help you to be your best, to help you be equipped, to be prepared, to be trained, and to be ready to go out and help God's people. We want to hold you accountable. Are you ready to be a life coach? That's what the series is about. That's why there's a follow-up series. There's a follow-up series to that. We believe in ongoing training, an ongoing process. But I want you to understand, for about half of coaches, this is the primary way that they will reach out to their coaching clients. Now also, remember a few minutes ago when we talked about the technology piece? You say, why is that a big deal? Why do I need to be on Facebook? Why do I need to be on Plaxo, on LinkedIn? Zoominfo.com, another one, meetup.com, gather.com. Why do I need to be on some of these websites? Well, here's a basic reason. People find you. They find you based on the things that you write. Maybe you've already started to blog. I've talked about that in this series and other series in the coaching process. And blogging is really simple. Matter of fact, the whole internet process is pretty simple. Don't make it technical. Here's how it works. Give to others. And the Bible says it'll be given back. If you go into a profession thinking, you know what? This is about me. This is about me. This is about me doing something, saying something so I can make the cash. If you think this is about you, I want you to know you're off base. Because this isn't just about you. Matter of fact, it's hardly about you. We believe in a process called servant leader because we see that's what Jesus did. Jesus went down low so that he could serve other people. Remember? He wrapped himself in a towel and he washed the disciples' feet. And he said that he that will be greatest among you will be the servant of all. That's what we're talking about. So when I'm thinking about this process of becoming a life coach, when I think about the process, even with all the technical things in the future, and I want you to know there's going to be more and more and more and more. If you'll just approach that as a servant to say, what can I do to help other people? Not approach it thinking, what am I going to get out of this? How's this going to make me money? Well, if you're doing that, you missed really everything I've been talking about. Because I want you to approach it as a servant leader. So then, when you go to the telephone, when you're able to send a text message to remind somebody, maybe between sessions, are you on track? Are you doing the things that we talked about? When you sit there and you're texting, or you make that phone call, or you send that the video greeting, and now all those, if you don't know how to do, wherever you got your cell phone, they'll show you for free. That's part of what you pay for. But when you do that, you know what you're able to do? You're able to do the most important thing that a life coach can do as a servant leader. You show the basic principle that people need to know. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Did you get that? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now, I want you to learn a lot. I want you to really be dedicated. And I want you to use this because it's so much a part of the coaching process. Really a lot different than counseling. And counseling's a face-to-face. Pastoral counseling, face-to-face. If I'm a consultant, probably going to be working face-to-face. And remember the difference between a consultant and a coach. Coach works with people one-on-one. Consultants work as the consultant with the whole organization. All right, so a little bit of a difference there. But when I'm coaching somebody, I use this to be able to say, I care about you. I'm there for you. Now, also with the telephone and the technical piece, as I said, you can get a headset for this. They're very inexpensive. You can get a Bluetooth device, very inexpensive, but I do want you to pay attention to this. And all you need is the help of a family member. Make a phone call to somebody that you know, and I want you to do a test to see if, because I do a lot of my calls in the car, but I have a car that's really quiet. I actually turn the air conditioner off. I do a lot of things. Make sure there's no background noise because that makes it really hard for your coaching client. They're paying for your time. They're paying for your professionalism. And so make sure they're able to hear you. Sometimes if you have the microphone set a certain way, you get an echo that is just terrible. It's like a reverb, and it's just terrible. And the simple thing to do is just test it with family members. So before you go live, we'll call it, with your coaching clients, I want you to practice with technology. And by practicing with technology is just to get used to it, get comfortable with it. It's been my experience that people over about the age of 50, all right, so that's my age group. We call them the AARP crowd, the baby boomers. The greatest generation was before us. We're the baby boomers that had all the idealism. But if you're over about 50, sometimes this technology is a little scary. So you can do it two ways. You can go back to where you got it or go to Best Buy, someplace like that. They'll show you because they love showing you how to use it so that you can use all the resources that go along with it. In the city where I live, the local public library has over 100 classes every month, get this, for free, that'll teach you how to use technology. That'll teach you how to be better at it because as life coaches, here's the other part. You don't just have to get clients from your zip code. You don't just have to get clients from your city because about half of this is done with technology. You can get clients, I have clients in Australia. I have clients in the United Kingdom. I have clients, and you have to pay attention to the time zones so that you're not up half the night. But now all of a sudden, instead of saying, Dwight, I'm from a small town, where am I going to get clients? Because of technology, you now can reach out to about 7 billion with a B people on the planet. And that's part of why life coaching has been so explosive. And why in other parts of the world, 72 countries around the world have life coaches that we know of. About 50,000 life coaches on the planet. But I know this, I want you to be the best. And of course, if you can do face-to-face in your community, that's fantastic. I do face-to-face coaching. You can see nonverbals, you can see a lot of things face-to-face. But I've got a little tiny camera up on the top of my computer where I can actually look at them face-to-face if they have that same technology. And see how we're back to the technology piece. And I just want you to know, if you're uncomfortable with that, okay, big Ziploc bag, small Ziploc bag. If you're uncomfortable with technology, even with the basic smartphone technology that's so much going to be a part of our future, I can use this phone, I can watch regular television shows for free. I can also use this phone and I can watch YouTube videos of life coaches giving me short tips. And at the end, it has their website. And if you don't have a website, I want you to understand that's an important part of this. When I think about the future of the coaching process, if you don't have a website, and right now, the research on the day that we're taping this, not good. About 2/3 of individuals in this industry don't have a basic website. Don't panic. Let me give you some basic principles. Here's what I want you to do. You can go to google.com. That's a large search engine. And you can type in blogs, B-L-O-G-S. And you can find out through WordPress, you can find out through Blogger, and you can set up what a basic blog, and all that means is you load up a profile, and that profile tells about you. You upload a picture, and it's step 1, 2, 3. It's very simple. I don't want to make it hard. But that way all of a sudden, you've posted some basic ideas. Maybe your top 10 points in the type of coaching that you do. Maybe you're able to put up an article or two. Because here's what I know. You don't want to be invisible on Google. You don't want to be invisible. Because if people type in life coaching and you're not on the internet, if you're invisible, and I'm going to be kind of dramatic for a minute. Are you ready? Here I am. Here I'm not, okay? I don't know if you got that or if it just woke you up if you're watching this, but I want you to know, you can't be invisible on the internet, not in the future. Not if you're going to be successful. You have to be incredibly visible, and a way to do that that's absolutely free is to get a blog. We've been blogging for probably 5-6 years, but with the blog process, it allows you and your name, and of course use your name, and as I said, these are all free. Anything that charges you money for this, to me, it's a scam. Run away from it. But this way, people are able to see you and your name. Then you can put maybe a hyphen, put life coach. There are ways to position yourself on the internet so that people can find you. And then you know what you've done? 2 things. You've helped another member of the body of Christ. You've given them helpful information. Top 10 things to do if maybe you're a relationship coach. Top 10 things to do if your teenager's acting out of control. Top 10 things to do if you're a health and fitness coach to be able to get your health on track after a stroke or after a heart attack. Maybe you're somebody who's a financial coach. Top 5 things. And notice how I keep talking about numbers, because when you position these blogs, you want to put a title with it. You want to put a title that has some very strategic words. You also want to put a number, because people are looking more than ever for very short answers. Maybe 400 words, maybe 500 words. You see, we've walked through the process of trends, technology, the telephone, and then it leads us into the next part, which is tools. Once you've positioned yourself on the internet, which is the future of coaching, and if you're still unsure, again, please send me an email. I'll walk you through the process. You can reach us through AACC. There are a lot of ways that you can reach us, but don't get stuck on that one, because if you're not there, you're going to have an incredibly hard time to move forward. This is almost the same as having a business telephone. All right, but now let's talk about tools for a minute, because here's what's involved in the coaching process. When I think about tools is the idea of you being able to do multiple things, and so this is probably like what they might call a guide tool. All right. You can actually suction this down. It's got a level on it. I can push a button, and as you can see, I can then make everything level. I can also probably irritate the cat or the dog by making it move around on the floor, but it has a level built in. It has a level built into the top. Has a tape measure built in. It has all of these different tools because that's coaching. With coaching, I want you constantly adding to your toolbox. And if you've listened to other life coaching materials that I've designed, you've heard me talk a lot about tools. And you know why? Because we've got to keep adding tools. We've got to keep adding tools to our toolbox. A coaching toolbox is one that it's like those ones you see at the mechanic shops. You know, they're about 6 or 7 feet tall, and there's little drawers, and there's all kinds of tools. That could be a test. It could be, some form of assessment. I am constantly not just looking for tools, I'm writing tools. And in the future, I hope to be able to share many of those with you if you stay in touch with us. Because those tools make a positive difference. Those tools allow you, because what's interesting is there are some tools made for a certain car on a certain year, and that's all that tool's good for. Everybody's as unique as a thumbprint. Every snowflake is different. Every person is different. And so in coaching, we have to constantly be paying attention to what tools are going to get the best results. And sometimes people say, man, where do you figure this stuff out? How do you stay in touch? One of the magazines that I read regularly, it's a little technical. It's called Wired. And it just talks about ways to take basic applications and to be able to reach out to other people. Something I learned recently in this magazine was a website called Animoto.com. Animoto.com. And you can take, if you don't have a YouTube video, if this technology is scary to you, if you say, man, I don't know how to do that, that's a little scary. You can take just regular digital pictures you've taken on your digital camera in 3 easy steps for free, because almost all of these things on the internet are, and you can upload digital pictures of you doing different coaching things, maybe speaking things, maybe you've been on radio, on television, maybe you've been working with small groups, and you've got these pictures and you think, man, what am I going to do with that? It takes about 10 minutes, and you go to Animoto.com, you upload the pictures. Once you upload them, you select the sequence that you'd like them to play in. It's sort of like a slideshow on PowerPoint, but way cooler. And then you pick your music, and that sets the pace, and then you hit post. And Animoto.com will send you back a 30-second YouTube video that you can post on your Facebook, you can post it on YouTube, you can post it on your church website, you can post it in your community. It's absolutely free. Now, if it's longer than 30 seconds, they charge you a small fee, but that's okay. But I want you to understand, these things aren't hard, but it will require this. If you want to keep adding tools to your toolbox, if you want to continue to improve as a life coach, and that's the only way you're going to help people, because people's needs are greater than ever. People actually expect more than ever. And one of my favorite phrases, coaching is about results. You have to be able to get results in people's lives. Think about it. When you take your car, when it breaks down, when you take your car, your computer, or whatever piece of technology, when it breaks down, you take it to somebody. If they're able to fix it lightning fast, do you tell your friends? You bet you do. You tell your friends. However, if your car breaks down and you take it to the local mechanic and they take 3 months to fix it, you tell everybody you know, your cousin and your grandma, that person, don't ever take your car there, they're a con man. We know the research tells us that people are literally 10 times more likely to tell their friends about a negative experience than a positive one. 10 times more likely. I want you to have the best tools possible so you can get the best results, because coaching is about results. And part of that means I want you reading magazines. I want you subscribing to online e-zines. Again, all these are free. I want you to continually be adding to your toolbox. And you do that by learning from other coaches. You see, one of the great things that I love, especially about Christian coaching, is that we all share. If there's a problem that you're facing and you say, man, what technique do you have? What tools do you have? What resources do you have? The great thing is we share ideas. We help each other. It's not really competitive like in some professions. Maybe this professional is trying to get ahead of this professional and they're trying to constantly outdo each other. But I have not seen that in coaching, and I've been in coaching almost 20 years. And what I've seen is, even with people who had no faith background, they were wonderfully gracious. They'd answer my questions, they'd share tools, they share test assessments, they tell me about books that had specific things that would help because of the type of coaching that I do, especially helping people through major life change, business coaching, executive coaching, working with professional athletes in performance, or individuals who have very talented kids. They want to see them perform at their best. I'm constantly looking for new tools. So if you've got some new tools, send them to me. And if you've got questions, send me an email. Because through this process, I want you to have the best toolbox possible, the best resources possible, so that you can get the best results in people's lives. Isn't that what God would want from us? Wouldn't God want us to be able to reach out and make a positive difference to help other people? I think so. So here we go. We've walked through the process. Trends, technology, telephone, tools, and now we talk about the idea of techniques. And when I think about techniques, this will illustrate it pretty well. All right, here's a person before they see you as a coach. Here's a person as they start with you as a coach. Here's a person through the coaching process. And sometimes people say, well, how long does this take? The average length of coaching, less than a year. And then most people will probably change coaches, which means there's incredible opportunities because they learn things from you. And then after they've learned things from you and you've taken them to a certain level, you know what they do? Then there's a logical place where you've taken them as far as you can, and now you go to another coach. And that coach helps pull even more and even more. And that person who started out not realizing their potential, that person who started out without a lack of purpose, or with a lack of purpose, that person who started out not really knowing where they fit, this person wakes up wondering why they go to work. They go to work to make money, to have a roof over their head, so they have a bed to sleep in, so they can get up and go back to a job that is unfulfilling and it's meaningless. Now watch this. When you've coached somebody to reach their potential, and that's what people are willing to pay, to be able to have someone to save them years, because now when they're living their potential, you know what happens? They're not just working a day job, they're working a dream job. They're not just working at something to pay the bills, they're working at something saying, you know what, this is the size that God always made me. I knew there was more in me. And a coach helps them get there. And you're that coach. So when I think about the idea of techniques, and how's that different than tools? Tools are sort of like their tests, their books, their resources, their CD programs. It's very common. Not very long ago, I was talking to someone. I said, you know, what you're facing, what you're going through, I want you to go to Amazon.com, fastest way to get it, and I want you to get a particular book, because that particular book would help them be their best. In fact, the book was called Words That Work. It's not what you say, it's what people hear, by Dr. Frank Luntz. He was a speech writer for several presidents. As you can see, there's a little bit of space to it, so that means I won't see that person again for probably a month, maybe 6 weeks. But then I'm not just going to assign a book. Anybody could do that. Their mother probably already told them to do that. You need to learn to communicate better. If you want to move ahead, you have to be a strong communicator. We all know that, and as I told you, everything is merging into the internet. And because it's merging into the internet, if you're not a strong communicator, verbally, with words, with emails, with YouTubes, with video, if you're not a strong communicator, hear me carefully, you will be left behind. I know that Jerry Jenkins and Tim LaHaye did an incredible series called Left Behind, and it talked about the end times. All right? You didn't want to be in that group left behind. And if you have a relationship with Christ, you don't have to worry about it. But we're not here to talk about theology. We're here to talk about helping you. So that means I'll assign a book, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask questions. I'm not just going to say, did you read the book? We're not doing a book report. This isn't 7th grade English. No. I'm then going to come back and say, you gave me a specific challenge as a coach. I found a tool, and this is just one that I happened to use recently, and there are dozens and dozens. So that means I'm constantly going through the whole process of looking at the New York Times, USA Today. I'm looking at the bestseller nonfiction, you know, the Who Moved My Cheese, Purpose-Driven Life. I'm looking at bestsellers because I want to save that coaching client time. And let me say this from an ethical perspective. The coaching process is about results. And if you're not really getting results with someone, would you do us all a favor and be ethical? If you're not getting results, if you're not the best coach, an ethical coach says, well, you know what, time out. I'm not your guy. I'm not your gal. I don't think I can get you results. Now, that's painful. That's embarrassing. That's awkward. I do not want you to have that experience, so here's what to do. Ask them. Do a pre-interview. That's a technique. We do a 15-minute consult. It's absolutely free. Somebody can call, because it's always on the telephone. Somebody can call, and I'm going to be asking them a series of questions. My assistant has already sent them a questionnaire. It's asked them a series of questions, and I'm going to follow up on those questions. We use the pre-interview process as an opportunity to be able to see what's a good fit and what's not a good fit. We use that pre-interview process to be able to kind of literally, if you can think like a funnel, to be able to funnel down to see who do we need to be working with. Because if I get somebody who's a bad fit, I'm going to get bad results. Not everybody is able to coach everybody. Here's how it works. You coach best out of your life journey. If God has allowed you to be the survivor of a major health crisis, I want you to know, you can coach somebody who's been through a major health crisis, a stroke, a heart attack. Maybe you're a caregiver for somebody with Alzheimer's. You can coach someone in health and wellness. Maybe your background has been fitness. If your background has been fitness, you can coach somebody in that area. If it's finance, you can coach somebody in that area. If it's small business, you can coach someone in that area. If it's communication skills, you can coach someone in that area. So a huge part of this to be successful, one of the techniques, and probably the most important technique, aside from the obvious, that you're living it in your own life. You have to be living it or you're not ready yet. And if you're not ready, it's okay. You know, if you take the cake out of the oven, and it's not fully cooked yet, no problem. Don't panic. Just put it back in the oven. If you're not ready to jump in and really, roll your sleeves up and get involved with both hands, helping somebody build their potential, live out their passions, be able to experience their purpose, the reason that they were born. If you're not ready yet, that's what this series is about. That's what this series is about. It leads into the next point, which is training. The training process. Because in the training process, and that's also where I'm reading magazines like Fast Company. I'm learning things. I'm paying attention to what's going on out there. Because when I think about helping to train someone, helping somebody to be their best, and being able to train that individual, I'm giving them tools. I'm giving them techniques. That's helping them, right? And you know what your job is as a coach? It's simple. Stay one step ahead. You know, a long time ago, I'd use this. This is called a marker board. As a matter of fact, if I'm in my office, this is the exact same marker board that I use. One of the techniques is I give them an action plan. But you know, this won't work if you're not staying ahead of the game. If you're not training you, you're going to get left behind. That means this process of coaching is it's a triple L, lifelong learner. As a coach, you're constantly learning. You're constantly going to training. The research that I did in thinking about our time together today, what I saw was that the best coaches, the ones that literally make about 2 to 3 times what a counselor makes, with an average caseload of about 15 clients a week, which is probably about half of what a lot of counselors do. But you know why they're the best? Training. There's an old saying, spend twice as much time sharpening the axe as you do swinging the axe. There's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will come. And you know what? Those old sayings kind of flow right out of the Proverbs, don't they? Because the Bible challenges us that if we want to be well-watered, if we want to always be green, always be growing, blessed is the man who does certain things, and a big part of that is that we're spending time in personal development, spiritual growth. We're spending time around godly people. Hey, can I go ahead and say it? You've got a coach. You've got a mentor. You've got people that hold you accountable in your life. Because the training process is not a one-time shot. And let me say this clearly, because I'm afraid that there are some people that will go through this series. And you'll go through this series, and you'll do well. You'll take the test at the end, and we're right here at the end. And you'll do well, and you'll say, all right, wipe my hands of that. I are trained. I are ready to go. Pardon the bad grammar. And you know what will happen? You'll go out, and you'll have some answers, but if you don't continue to add value to your journey, if you don't continue to stretch, if you don't continue to grow, here's what will happen. Other people will pass you by. And then you know what they'll do? they'll go look for coaches to help them. I've had some coaching clients almost as long as I've been a coach. And at the end of every year, I always ask them the same question. Do you believe that you need to change? There are some incredible coaches out there, about 50,000 worldwide. Do you believe that you need to change? And I love an answer that came back to me from a psychologist who said, I would change, but you're always ahead of where I'm at. You're always ahead of where I'm going. And because of that, I don't know anybody else that's growing like that. Well, okay, so I'm a nerd. I love growing. I love stretching. I love changing. I love improving. And I know this. If you're constantly raising the bar for you to say, you know what, God is my audience. He's easily pleased with me, but he's never satisfied. God looks down on us with love and grace and compassion. But you know what? I believe that God expects our best. Yea, demands it. That God expects me to not waste time on silliness. If you're spending more time paying attention to who wins the World Series, the Super Bowl, or who the final contestants are on American Idol, then you are in personal development, spiritual development. You know what's going to happen? Coaching's going to pass you by. Coaching clients are going to pass you by because you're violating this principle of training. You're violating this principle of continuing to be your best. Now, I like entertainment as much as the next person. But I want you to know, matter of fact, it's a wonderful application. I want you to think of like a cross. You know how the classic Roman cross was twice as tall as it was wide. Twice as tall as it was wide. So here's what I want you to do. If you see this as just entertainment, sports and television and sitcoms and home shopping and watching things on Discovery Channel and Mythbusters and it's Shark Week or whatever, okay, whatever your form of entertainment is, if you'll spend twice as much heavenward, twice as much saying, oh God, help me be the man, the woman that I could be. Help me be the man or the woman that you designed me to be. When you do that, when you spend that ratio 2-to-1, it just makes the shape of a cross. And when you have that 2-to-1 ratio, yeah, you know what's going on in the world around you, but you're so focused on God put me on this planet for a reason, for a season, for a purpose. And I'm a life coach to help somebody be their best. I'm going to ask somebody a question that may change their entire legacy. You know, if you help some people to be able to shatter and break self-defeating patterns, you set free their whole legacy. Remember the movie Back to the Future? A long time ago. Michael J. Fox was in it. You remember Marty McFly? And then there was that classic scene where he was supposed to kind of take out the bully, but he didn't. His dad, back in good old 1955, just got angry enough that he punched the bully. And Doc Brown kept saying, oh no, this is going to upset the whole space-time continuum, the flux capacitor and all that stuff. Well, if you remember the movie, Steven Spielberg put a whimsical ending to it. Because of one event, on one day, by one shy, scared guy who said, there's a line in the sand, enough, you're not going to treat that girl that way. And he stood up. He got a backbone of steel. He stood up and said, stop it. It changed his whole future. And if you remember at the end of the movie, he was a best-selling author and had gone from being just a mediocre guy who went nowhere with his life, who watched other people pass him by. He went on to become a leader. Hey, you know what? I don't think that's just a movie. I think that's me and you. I think that's the future of life coaching and why so many people, why life coaching is the number one business trend and the number one trend that we saw in Entrepreneur Magazine. Because it changes people's legacies. Counseling frees us from our past, and counseling is important. I've been a counselor over 25 years. Almost 40,000 hours of face-to-face counseling, helping people, being a shoulder to lean on and cry on, helping people find answers to overcome their painful past. I believe in it. I'm certified nationally in it. I'm committed to it, and I'm a counselor trainer because of it. But counseling's not coaching. Coaching isn't about all of that. In fact, if somebody has all that baggage, they need to see the counselor before they see you as a coach. But when you're able to help them as a coach, you shatter the past. And now you open them up to the future that I believe God designed them for. And it leads to our final principle. Let me just recap them. We talked about trends. We talked about technology. We talked about the telephone. We talked about tools. We talked about techniques. We talked about training. And now let me talk about probably the most important process, and it's trust. It's trust. My friend Chris Denbeston wrote a book called Shine. Just listen. Chris said that the most important thing that you can do to help people, the most important thing is to build a trusting relationship, so that you're building a relationship. You're getting referrals instead of just a recommendation. You're getting people who are saying, this person's somebody that you can believe in. Listen to what Chris said. 3 most important questions. Number 1, can I trust you? That's credibility. Number 1, can I trust you? That's credibility. Number 2, can I count on you? That's perseverance. And number 3, do you care about me? And that's love. 2 Timothy 2:15 said, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a workman who does not need to be ashamed, who correctly handles the word of truth. You become that person when you do what you say you're going to do. You be who you say you are. You stand up for your beliefs and ideals. You're faithful when the pressure is on. You have a realistic view of yourself. You perform well on the job. You address problems. You endure trials. You overcome failures. You're prepared for eternity. But the bottom line, you do it with love. Do it with love. The last thing that we know about our Master Jesus Christ in an earthly body in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed, "Oh Father, that they would be one as we are one." And when you're a loving person who is trustworthy, and trustworthy says you don't go beyond your limits, but trustworthy says you're not afraid to ask the hard questions. You're not afraid to challenge. We're not talking about criticism. We're talking about confrontation. We're talking about critiquing. The best of the best of the best in the world of pro sports have coaches that critique them. It's not a personal attack about them as a person. That's criticism. Criticism attacks the person. Critiquing helps you be your best. And to confront things, you cannot do that with integrity unless there's trust in your life. If you're holding somebody accountable in an area where you've got dark shadows in your past, you're not going to be able to help them. And you know what? They're going to know it. They're going to know it. And the greatest way to build a life of trust is that you start your life every day right here. You start your life in Scripture. You start your life in the Word. Because by spending time in God's Word, it allows you to have God's words flowing through you. Do you remember Solomon? God said, here's a blank check. Solomon, here's a blank check, and you're a young guy. You can have anything you want. You want money, you want power, you want influence. What do you want? You got it. And Solomon humbled himself under the mighty hand of his God and said, "Oh God, I'm so young, I'm so inexperienced. God, please give me wisdom." You know, this book says, the Bible teaches, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives it freely. Remember how I talked about all the things on the internet that are free? Here's the best free. Don't be a Christian life coach if you're not spending time in this Word. Life will pass you by. And as it passes you by, it violates a basic principle. And it's really the final principle that I want to share with you. This is from a magazine I read called Adweek. Just listen. Because it talks about it's time to build the new economy. One that's not based on building whatever we can, selling whatever we can sell, and hoping that consumers keep spending more than they have on things that they don't really need. Those days are over. People are looking for products and services that improve their lives. They're looking for values and value for themselves, their families, and increasingly things that would value their community. Now that is a publication just in the marketing and advertising field, but they hit the nail right on the head. And the new economy, what people are going to pay attention to, is what adds value to them. When I think about the future of coaching, the opportunities are wider than my arms can spread. The futures for coaching is huge. However, you need some basics. Here we go. You need to follow the trends. You need to pay attention to technology. You need to pay attention to telephone and your telephone skills. You need tools. You need techniques. You need training. But most of all, my friend, you need trust. Trust is everything. And when you're a trustworthy person, when you're somebody that the God of the heavens can look down and say, they're ready, then I want you to know it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be incredible. When you're ready, God will bring people. When you're ready, when you're doing these things, when you're disciplined and not taking people for granted, when you're caring about them to say, I want to see you stretch to be the man or the woman that God designed you to be, and I'm not going to lay off, I'm not going to back up until I see you reach your potential. When you're ready for that, when you're trustworthy, you're going to see that your future as a life coach is brighter than the sunshine, because the Son of God has blessed you as a life coach who's ready to make a difference in our world for Jesus Christ. That's my prayer for you. Now go